You've already had the eye exam that the health plan covers and left there with the feeling that everything was fine. But when you get home, you turn off the light and realize that it takes much longer to see your way to bed than it did 10 years ago. Have you ever found yourself dodging a piece of furniture in the dark that you used to dodge without thinking? And the explanation that no one gave in the 15-minute consultation is that the exam measures how many letters you read on the illuminated wall. It does not measure the speed with which your eyes adapt to the darkness. The problem of night vision does not appear in that machine that asks you to support your chin. He shows up in your life. It appears when you need to get up at dawn to go to the bathroom and you are groping the wall. It appears when you drive at night and the headlights of other cars seem more aggressive, leaving that stain that takes time to disappear. It appears when you look at the clock on the bedside table and you can't distinguish the numbers. And what worries me as a doctor who has spent decades hearing this in the office is that most people over the age of 50 accept this slowness as a natural part of aging. It accepts it as an account that age charges and that has no way to negotiate. But there is. And I'm not talking about miracle eye drops. I'm not talking about expensive surgery. I'm talking about a fruit that you've probably seen at the market, you've passed by it without paying attention, and that, if eaten at the right time of day, and in the way I'm going to explain it now, can give back to your eyes an agility that you thought you had lost forever. Pay attention to this detail because it changes everything. Your eyes have two types of cells that capture light. One type is used to see colors and details during the day. The other type, which is what interests us now, serves to see in the dark. These cells of the dark are like small buckets that fill with a special pigment, an ink that reacts to weaker light. When you enter a dark room, these buckets need to be full of this paint for you to see the outline of things. However, from the age of 40, the body begins to produce less of this ink. It is as if the factory that refills the buckets is slowing down little by little, and the common eye exam does not measure the level of this ink. He measures something else. So you leave the office with the confidence that everything is fine, but the decline is happening quietly, and the worst thing is that every night that this ink is low is a night in which the cells of the dark are suffering a wear and tear that accumulates. It's not just a matter of seeing poorly today, it's a matter of losing cells that don't regenerate later. That's the silent damage. The question that remains in the air and which I will answer in a moment with all clarity is which specific fruit can provide the raw material that the body needs to refill these buckets. And I go further. I'll show you that the way most people consume fruit at night cancels out precisely the benefit that could be protecting vision. In 3 weeks, if you do what I'm going to describe, you may notice, when you turn off the light in your room, that the objects around you start to appear faster. And within 2 months, you may notice that the discomfort with the brightness of the headlights at night has subsided in a way you haven't felt in years. This is not an empty promise. It's the result I've seen in hundreds of patients over decades of clinical practice. Patients who came to the office scared, thinking they were going blind, and who regained an impressive quality of life with adjustments in their nighttime diet. People like Mrs. Noosa, 67 years old, who had given up going to the theater because on the way back with the street darker, she felt sick with nervousness. Or Mr. Giraldo, 72, who handed the steering wheel to his wife as soon as the sun went down, even though his license was still expiring for 5 years. They all had something in common. They believed they were doing the right thing, but they were making a mistake when it came to eating at night. An error that completely nullified the chance of night vision repair. And this mistake is so common that I dare say that 8 out of 10 people who are listening to me right now make it without knowing it. Watch this carefully because here is what almost no one explains. There's a family of pigments that gives color to certain red, purple, and blue fruits. They are pigments that, when they reach the body, have a special affinity for the dark cells that I mentioned. They are like workers who carry raw material directly into these cells. But these workers are extremely sensitive to what happens in the stomach. If the stomach environment is too acidic because of other foods eaten at the same time, they degrade before reaching the eyes. If the stomach is too empty, they pass quickly and are eliminated. There is a window of opportunity that closes every day about an hour after the last meal. And the fruit that I am going to reveal needs to be consumed exactly in this window, without the company of certain foods that work as invisible saboteurs. The fruit is the blueberry, small, dark blue, almost black. You can find it in street markets, in supermarkets, frozen or fresh. And I know that now you may be thinking that you have already eaten blueberries at night and you didn't feel any difference. That is the central point. The error that nullifies the benefit. Most people eat blueberries for dessert, right after dinner, mixed with yogurt or milk. Or you eat it together with other fruits in a fruit salad drizzled with orange juice. And therein lies the silent annulment. The calcium in milk and yogurt competes with the pigments in blueberries in absorption by the intestine. Orange juice, due to its acidity, destroys part of the pigments even before they leave the stomach. The fruit that could be carrying the ink for your eyes ends up leaving the body almost intact, without having done the work it could do. Think about the dimension of this. For years you may have bought the right fruit, paid dearly for it, thought you were taking care of your health, and the benefit was being blocked at the front door. And the worst thing is that no one in line at the supermarket, no one on television, no one in the quick consultation tells this. Because the system treats symptoms, it does not treat causes. The 15-minute consultation does not have time to explain the mechanism of pigment absorption. And the industry profits from you buying the right product but using it the wrong way, perpetuating the feeling that nothing works. Whoever is watching now, I ask permission to pause in reasoning and an invitation. If what I've said so far made sense to you, if it turned on a light that there is a path that has never been explained to you properly, leave the name of the city from where you are accompanying us below. Just write the name of your city. It's a simple gesture that helps me know how far this message is going and shows me that I'm not talking to myself. Enjoy this video. Subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed yet, because every day I bring content with the depth that your health deserves and that the 15-minute office never had time to deliver. And as a little warm-up for what's next, tell me something. Have you ever felt that your night vision has worsened more than daytime vision? Answer with a yes or no in the comments, and soon after I'll reveal the second secret about blueberries, which is even more powerful than the first, and that almost everyone ignores. Mr. Alcides, 74 years old, a retired driver, sat in front of me with the countenance of someone who had tried everything. He told me that for 40 years he drove a truck at night and never had a problem. And suddenly, for the past 2 years, I could barely see the gate when I came home from the bakery at 6 in the afternoon in the winter. He had already been to 3 ophthalmologists, all of whom said that the cataract was minimal and that the retina was fine. But his complaint was clear. Adaptation to the dark was very slow. When I asked him about his nighttime eating habits, he mentioned that he had an early dinner at 6:30 and then snacked on dried fruits. Therein lies a silent trap. Dried blueberries, the ones that come in packets, go through a dehydration process that concentrates sugar and mainly exposes the pigments to heat and oxygen. A large number of those workers I have described die on the way. Dried blueberries may even have fiber, they may even have vitamins, but they have lost the ability to replenish night vision ink. Mr. Alcides exchanged dried blueberries for frozen blueberries. Yes, frozen. And here is one of the revelations that most surprises my patients. The frozen blueberry, the one you find in the supermarket freezer, often preserves more pigments than the fresh one that traveled days to arrive at your market. The thermal shock of freezing done right after harvesting stops degradation. The fresh blueberry, which stays for days in the fruit bowl, exposed to light and air, gradually loses its compounds. Mrs. Fatima, 62 years old, a retired teacher, was open-mouthed when I showed her the difference in the color of the pulp of a frozen blueberry and a fresh blueberry that had already spent a week in the refrigerator. The frozen one released an intense purple broth, almost black, the fresh, half-watery of a strong pink. This color is the army of pigments that will march into your eyes. And that's why frozen blueberries are my main ally in night orientation. But here comes the detail that changes everything. It is not enough to be frozen. The temperature at which you consume this blueberry makes all the difference. If you take it out of the freezer and eat it immediately, the heat shock in the mouth and stomach constricts the blood vessels in the gastrointestinal mucosa. This reduces the contact surface and absorption speed. The ideal is to remove the portion you are going to consume, put it in a small pot, and let it thaw slowly inside the refrigerator for about 4 hours, until it is at room temperature refrigeration, soft, juicy, but still fresh. It is in this state that pigments are most available. And now, the cats leap. The blueberry alone, as potent as it is, needs a partner to be absorbed. These pigments are fat-soluble in part. That is, they need a little fat to cross the wall of the intestine and fall into the bloodstream. If you eat the blueberry plain, without any fatty accompaniment, you lose a huge fraction of what it could deliver. I'm not talking about frying the blueberry in butter. I'm talking about consuming, along with the portion of thawed blueberries, 5 or 6 walnuts, or 10 almonds, or a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. This small amount of good fat works as a key that opens the body's gateway to pigments. Here's what almost no one explains. Mrs. Noosa, whom I mentioned, did just that for a month. Thawed blueberries in the evening an hour after dinner, accompanied by 4 walnuts. In the 3rd week, she called me emotionally. He said that he had gone to the bathroom at dawn, forgot to turn on the light, and when he returned to bed, he realized that he had dodged the corner of the nightstand without tripping. Something that had not happened for at least 5 years. She felt, for the first time in a long time, that her body was still responding, that all was not lost. This type of report is not rare for those who get the way to consume blueberries right. But there's more. And what comes now is a layer of depth that most health videos never reach. Your gut, my friends, is a universe. Inside it live trillions of bacteria. Some are harmful, but many are precious allies. There is a specific group of bacteria that love to feed on the pigments in the blueberry. When these bacteria consume the pigments, they produce as a byproduct a substance that travels through the blood, crosses the barrier that protects the eye, and will act directly on the factory of renewal of the dark ink. It's as if the blueberry were the raw material, and the bacteria were the plant that transforms this raw material into high-octane fuel for your eyes. But what happens if the gut is populated with the wrong bacteria? If you have the habit of consuming ultra-processed foods at night, if you abuse artificial sweeteners, if you take antacids frequently, you are, without realizing it, killing the good bacteria and feeding the bad bacteria. And the bad bacteria don't know how to transform the pigments in the blueberry. They simply ignore it. The blueberry passes through the gut without being converted, and you miss out on the most potent benefit of all. The betrayal of the system is exactly here. The industry sells the antacid for reflux that appears at night, sells the sweetener as a healthy alternative to sugar, but no one tells you that these products are quietly dismantling the plant that could be protecting your night vision. Mr. Renato, 58 years old, an executive retired due to health problems, had the habit of drinking a glass of milk with sweetener and an antacid before going to sleep. He also ate blueberries because someone had said it was good for the eyes. But he ate in the morning, along with coffee, and his intestine was a desert. When we adjusted the schedule, suspended the sweetener and antacid with medical advice, and started to consume the blueberry at night with nuts, in 3 months he reported that he drove at night again, something he had abandoned 2 years ago. This connection between the gut and the eyes is one of the most fascinating discoveries in medicine today. During sleep, the body activates a deep cleansing mode. It is the time when the cells of the eyes regenerate with more intensity. But for this regeneration to happen, they need the fuel that came from the blueberry and was activated by the good bacteria. If you eat the blueberry in the morning, the fuel will be used throughout the day for other functions. It may even bring some benefit, but not the specific benefit of night vision. In the evening, an hour after dinner, is the time when the absorption window coincides with the beginning of the body's preparation for nighttime repair. It is as if you delivered the construction material exactly when the masons are arriving to work. Delivering in the morning would be leaving the material in the sun all day, waiting for the masons to arrive only at night, and the material degrades. This is the concept that most people don't understand. It's not just what you eat, it's when you eat it and what you go along with. 3 variables that, when aligned, make blueberries become one of the most vision-protective foods that nature offers. And now I want you to imagine the scene inside your eye. Imagine that the retina, the layer that captures light, is like a field covered by millions of tiny antennas. Daytime antennas are robust and need a lot of light. The night antennae are thin, elongated, and extremely sensitive. Inside these night antennas, there is a jelly-like substance that reacts to the slightest beam of light. When a photon, a particle of light, hits this gelatin, it changes shape and fires an electrical signal to the brain. This sign says there is an object there. But after the gelatin changes shape, it needs to be recycled, rebuilt, to be able to respond to the next photon. And it is exactly in this recycling that blueberries act. Blueberry pigments speed up the reconstruction of gelatin. The faster the gelatin rebuilds, the faster your eyes adapt to the darkness. That's why people who consume blueberries the right way report that when they turn off the light, the shapes appear in seconds, not minutes. It is a difference that may seem small in the description, but in practice, saves lives. Think of the elderly person who gets up at dawn to go to the bathroom. If the adaptation to the dark is slow, he walks blindly for 5-10 seconds. In this interval, a slipper out of place, a loose rug, a wire on the floor can cause a fall, and falls in the elderly are one of the main causes of loss of independence. It's not just about seeing, it's about continuing to own your own life. It's about not being afraid to get up at night. It's about being able to drive to her granddaughter's house in the late afternoon without the panic of being surprised by the darkness. We have reached the point where I need to reveal the traitors. Those foods that seem harmless, that many consider healthy, but that, consumed at dinner or close to blueberry time, sabotage the whole work. The first traitor is the coffee after dinner. Caffeine constricts the blood vessels in the retina. Constricted, these vessels receive less blood flow and therefore less pigment coming from the blueberry. It's as if you turned on the tap to fill a bucket but squeezed the hose with your foot. The water even passes, but much less. The second traitor is the sweet dessert, especially the one with milk chocolate. Refined sugar in large quantities causes an insulin spike that, among other effects, inflames the microcirculation of the retina. The inflamed retina has more difficulty absorbing nutrients. In addition, chocolate milk competes with pigments, as I have already explained. The third traitor is black tea or mate tea taken right after the meal. The tannins in black tea bind to several nutrients and prevent their absorption. They don't choose, they bind to the pigments in the blueberry as well, forming complexes that the gut can't break down. The fourth traitor, and perhaps the most surprising, is the habit of going to bed right after eating. If you have dinner and in less than an hour you are in bed, digestion slows down, but in addition, the horizontal position changes the intraocular pressure. The pressure inside the eye rises subtly, and this pressure makes it difficult for nutrients to reach the retina. The ideal is to wait at least 2 hours between dinner and bedtime. In this interval, an hour after dinner, you consume thawed blueberries with walnuts, and then wait another hour before going to bed. This synchronizes the peak of absorption with the onset of the nightly repair. Now, a story that I keep with great affection. Donna Lourdes, 81 years old, widow, living alone. She arrived at the office with a very worried daughter. The daughter wanted to take her mother to live with her because Mrs. Lourdes had fallen twice at night. Mrs. Lourdes was terrified of the idea of losing her house, her garden, her routine. She said she would rather die than get out of there. We adjusted her nighttime feeding. Light dinner, no coffee, no sweets. An hour later, thawed blueberries with 3 Brazil nuts. The daughter bought a package of frozen blueberries and left daily portions in the fridge. In the first week, Mrs. Lourdes did not notice anything. On Monday, she called me saying that she thought it was an impression, but that she was seeing the outline of the lamp in the room faster. In the 4th week, she went to the bathroom at dawn, came back, and only then realized that she had not turned on the light at any time. She made the entire journey in the dark, dodging the furniture, as she had done 20 years ago. The daughter called me crying, saying that her mother was more confident, that the fear was going away. This is the human dimension of what seems like a simple fruit tip. It's not about the fruit. It is about what the fruit, consumed at the right time and in the right way, gives back to a person. And I can't fail to mention a detail that changes the game even more. There is a time within the night window that is particularly powerful. You may have heard that the body has an internal clock, the circadian rhythm. Well, the cells of the eye also have this clock. They go into maximum repair mode around 9-10 o'clock at night, as long as the ambient light is low. If you consume the blueberry too late, say 11 at night, the absorption peak will happen when the repair mode is already losing strength. The ideal is to consume the blueberry between 8 and 9 at night, with the house already in dim light, away from cell phone and television screens. The blue light of the screens, by the way, is a formidable enemy. It tricks the clock of the eye cells, making them think that it is still daytime. And if the cells think it's daytime, they don't trigger the nighttime repair. You can eat all the blueberries in the world, but if you stay on your phone until midnight, the repair just doesn't happen at the same intensity. This is the modern mistake that nullifies the benefit of any overnight strategy. Blue light is like an artificial sun that tells your eyes not to rest. My friends, I see this every day. Patients who do everything right during the nightfall, but sabotage the result with their cell phone in bed. I'm not telling you to throw your phone away. I'm saying that if you really want to protect your night vision, it's worth turning off screens at least an hour before bed. Use this time for a reading with a yellowish light, for a quiet conversation, for a warm bath, and consume the blueberry in the meantime. You'll be creating the perfect conditions for each pigment to reach its destination and do its job. Think of this nightly ritual as a gesture of self-care, a moment when you deliberately step away from the noise of the world and dedicate yourself to nourishing the body that has carried you here. Now, I want to tie it all together with a reveal that connects the blueberry to the brain. There is a cleaning system that only works during deep sleep. This system sweeps away toxins that accumulate in the brain and optic nerve. It's as if, while you sleep, a cleaning crew passes by with tiny brooms, taking out the metabolic waste. Blueberry pigments, when activated by gut bacteria, generate compounds that help open the channels through which this cleansing takes place. It's as if they send a signal for the cleaning team to work more efficiently. And when the optic nerve is clean, the communication between the eye and the brain is faster, sharper. This means that it is not only the ability to capture light that improves, but the speed with which the brain interprets what has been captured. It is an improvement on two fronts at the same time. And this explains why so many patients report, in addition to night vision, a general feeling of visual clarity, of less eye fatigue at the end of the day. Mr. Mario, 79 years old, a retired gardener, told me a phrase that I have never forgotten. He said, "Doctor, I'm seeing the flowers in the garden again." He wasn't talking about seeing in the dark. He was talking about noticing details that the brain had failed to register because of the accumulation of metabolic waste in the optic nerve. The fruit, the blueberry, was helping to clear the way. And here I need to speak in all honesty. None of this replaces regular medical follow-up. If you have any diagnosed eye disease, glaucoma, macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy, you should strictly follow the treatment prescribed by your doctor. The blueberry and the nighttime strategy I describe are layers of complementary care, based on what we have observed in decades of clinical practice, but they are not an isolated treatment for serious diseases. The content of this video is for educational purposes and should be discussed with the professional who accompanies you. That said, most doctors don't have time to explain these minutiae of absorption and circadian rhythm, and that's why I'm here, to fill the gap that the system leaves. I want you, who are listening to me now, to imagine yourself a month from now. You had something light for dinner, avoided coffee and sweets. An hour later, you take the jar with the blueberries that were thawing in the fridge, add some nuts, sit in a quiet place in the house, with the light low. He tastes each fruit, feels the slightly sweet taste, the soft texture. Then you brush your teeth, get ready for bed, but you don't pick up your cell phone. You lie down, turn off the light, and in a matter of seconds, you notice the outline of the lampshade, the silhouette of the closet, the path of the door. You get up at dawn and your feet know exactly where to step. This is the portrait of autonomy. It is the independence that you have defended all your life, now defended by a blue fruit that nature has created. What I wish most is for you to share this video with someone you love, not as a gesture of marketing, but as a gesture of genuine care. You know that brother who stopped driving at night, that friend who fell down in the dark aisle, that father who says everything is fine, but you notice that he gets up scared. Send it to that person. Because the right information at the right time can restore the confidence that age has tried to take. And if you think that good things fade over time, maybe it's time to revisit that belief. Maybe it's time to look at the fruit bowl with different eyes, literally. If you have come this far, thank you very much. From the heart. Sleep well tonight, and may your eyes meet the dark as an old friend, not as a menacing stranger. See you in the next video. But before I finish, I want to deepen this conversation even more, because there are layers of this that few people explore. What happens inside your body when you consume blueberries in the right way is a cascade of events that starts in the mouth and ends in the retina. First, the salivary glands already begin to release enzymes that pre-digest the natural sugars in the fruit. When the bolus reaches the stomach, the acidic environment there needs to be controlled. If the stomach is too full, with heavy digestion of a meal high in bad fats, the pigments are trapped in the middle of the fat, and excess hydrochloric acid begins to oxidize them. That's why the dinner before the blueberry needs to be light. A plate of cooked vegetables, a lean protein like fish or chicken, a low glycemic carbohydrate like sweet potatoes or quinoa. No fried food, no heavy sauces, no red meat in large quantities. The stomach finishes the main digestion in about an hour, and it is at this exact moment that the blueberry finds a less hostile environment, with moderate acidity, ready to receive it without destroying it. Then the blueberry passes into the small intestine. There, the intestinal villi, which are like small fingers that absorb nutrients, need to be intact. If the person has the habit of consuming gluten in excess or taking anti-inflammatories frequently, these villi may be flattened, which drastically reduces absorption. So part of night vision care starts long before the blueberry. It starts with the health of your gut. People who suffer from poor digestion, constant gas, abdominal bloating, are probably not absorbing even half of the pigments they consume. It's like filling a leaky bucket. Therefore, taking care of the intestinal flora with naturally fermented foods, such as a natural unsweetened yogurt or a little sauerkraut, can be a fundamental preparatory step. Now, imagine the journey of pigments after absorption. They fall into the bloodstream and head towards the liver. The liver functions as a large gatekeeper, deciding what enters the general circulation and what is metabolized. If the liver is overloaded with medications, alcohol, or toxins, it can trap some of the pigments and turn them into less active substances. A healthy liver, which is supported by a diet rich in cruciferous vegetables like broccoli and kale, lets pigments pass through more freely. They then travel through the blood until they reach the blood-eye barrier, a selective membrane that protects the eye. Crossing this barrier is not easy. Blueberry pigments have a molecular shape that fools this barrier, as if they had a VIP access badge. Once inside the eye, they focus on the retina, specifically the cells of the dark, the ones I've called little buckets. Inside, they donate electrons, neutralize free radicals, stabilize cell membranes, and participate directly in the recycling of visual ink. This process is continuous, night after night, and every night you provide the correct pigments is a night you push the decline further. Pay attention to this detail because it changes everything you believed about visual degeneration. Many people believe that the loss of night vision is just a problem of lack of vitamin A, and then they go out eating carrots, liver, taking synthetic supplements. Vitamin A is indeed important, but it is the raw material. Blueberry pigments act in a different, more refined stage. They protect the paint that has already been manufactured, preventing it from degrading too quickly. It's as if vitamin A provides bricks, and blueberry pigments are the trailer that keeps the wall from peeling off in the wind. Without the trailer, the bricks are exposed and wear out. That's why so many people take vitamin A and don't see an improvement in night vision. The protector is missing. The blueberry is missing. This combination of vitamin A with the pigments in the blueberry is what nature has planned. And nature is wise, my friends. She placed the blueberry in forests in the northern hemisphere, where winters are long and dark, precisely so that animals that consumed it would have an advantage in night vision and survive predators. We humans have inherited this evolutionary benefit. The deep blue of the fruit is not by chance. It is a biological call. Now, allow me to tell you another real office story. Mr. Humberto, 69 years old, retired watchmaker. He came to me with a different complaint. He said that he could see well during the day, but that at night the colors disappeared. Everything turned a dark gray. He was terrified of crossing the street at night because he could not distinguish the color of the pedestrian signal. He had already done tests and more tests, and he explained nothing. When I asked about the nighttime diet, he revealed that he ate dinner very late, around 10 at night, and that dinner was invariably a vegetable soup with whole grain bread. It sounds healthy, isn't it? But the soup had tomatoes, which are acidic, and wholemeal bread, which contains phytic acid, an anti-nutrient that binds to minerals and can also bind to pigments. In addition, he drank a glass of red wine. And then, pay attention, because red wine contains resveratrol and other beneficial compounds, but alcohol, even in small amounts, is a solvent that alters the permeability of the blood-eye barrier. It hinders the passage of pigments into the eye. I'm not demonizing wine, but if the goal is to maximize the arrival of pigments to the retina, alcohol should be avoided in the night window. Mr. Humberto suspended the wine, advanced dinner to 7, ate the blueberry at 8:30 with chestnuts, and in 6 weeks he reported to me that the colors were returning at night. He saw the green of the sign, the yellow of the pole, the red of the sign. It's exciting to hear a patient rediscover the world. And there is one more factor that very few people know about: oxygenation of the blood during sleep. If you snore, if you have sleep apnea, your oxygen saturation drops during the night. Retinal cells are avid for oxygen. If there is a lack of oxygen, the pigments cannot recycle the visual ink efficiently. Sleep apnea is a silent thief of night vision. Many patients significantly improve their adaptation to the dark just by treating snoring, losing weight, using an intraoral appliance, or the CPAP prescribed by their sleep doctor. The blueberry does its part, but the oxygen needs to arrive. Otherwise, it's like having high-octane fuel, but the engine is sputtering. Observe this carefully. Often the solution is not in a single thing, but in the sum of several adjustments that together make the system work again. I see in the office every single day frustrated people who have tried everything. They took lubricating eye drops, did eye massage, wore glasses with yellowed lenses to drive at night. All of this can help a little, but it doesn't attack the root. The root lies in the lack of specific raw material and the blockage of absorption. And what revolts me as a doctor is that the information exists, it is published, it is documented, but it does not reach the tip. It does not arrive at the 15-minute consultation at the health center. It does not arrive on television. Come here. That's why I have this commitment to you. To translate what science knows into people's language, into practical action, into something you can do tonight. Another common mistake that negates the benefit, and that I haven't mentioned yet, is the temperature of the water you drink along with the blueberry. If you drink a glass of ice water with you, the thermal shock in the stomach constricts the vessels and slows down absorption, as I have already explained. But if you drink a tea that is too hot, excessive heat can also degrade some of the sensitive pigments. Ideally, room temperature water or a warm tea of gentle herbs, such as chamomile or fennel, without caffeine, without tannins. That little detail makes a huge difference. I had a patient, Mrs. Irene, 77 years old, who did not drink alcohol, did not drink coffee at night, did everything right, but did not see results. When I asked, she said that she accompanied the blueberry with a very hot black tea, thinking that tea was always healthy. The black tea, in addition to the tannins that block absorption, was too hot, giving the final blow to the pigments. I swapped the black tea for warm chamomile tea. In 3 weeks, Mrs. Irene has already noticed a difference. She said, "Doctor, yesterday I saw the cat in the dark hallway, before I stumbled upon him. The black cat in the dark hallway, an image that sums it all up. What was invisible because of a simple detail became visible again. Speaking of details, the ideal daily amount also matters. Many people think that, because it is natural, they can eat at will. But excess fructose, even the natural fructose in the fruit, can overwhelm the liver and disrupt the process. The ideal serving is about half a cup of fresh or thawed blueberries, which is approximately 75 grams. This provides enough pigments to saturate the retinal cells without exceeding the liver's processing capacity. Less than that, the effect is weak. More than that, you don't gain extra benefit and may still have intestinal discomfort. Nature works with doses, not excesses. Another crucial point is regularity. It's no use doing this every other night. The cells of the dark slowly renew their ink. The effect is cumulative. Every night you supply the pigments is a night you contribute to the stock. Every night you jump, the stock goes down again. Constancy is what separates those who see results from those who do not. Mrs. Noosa, Mrs. Lords, Mr. Alcides, all of them were consistent. And this consistency is what turns a tip into a lifelong protective habit. Now let's talk about the environment in which you sleep. The total darkness of the bedroom is a powerful signal to the brain. If you sleep with that little outlet light, with the television on, with the hallway light on, your pupils never completely relax. The cells of the dark are in a state of alert, wasting ink non-stop. When you wake up at dawn, they are already exhausted. A totally dark room is the sanctuary of night vision. If you can't make the room completely dark, wear a sleep mask. It will sound simple, but the effect on visual paint regeneration is striking. Mrs. Gloria, 70 years old, came to the office with a complaint that she woke up at dawn and could not see anything at all for almost a whole minute. She slept with the television on at low volume and the blue light flashing all night. I suggested turning off the television. She was reluctant because she said that television kept her company, but he agreed to test it. Within 2 weeks, the adaptation to the dark upon waking up improved noticeably. She didn't need a supplement. She didn't need medicine. It needed darkness. Darkness, my friends, is medicine for the eyes. And here comes a concept that I consider one of the most beautiful in preventive medicine. The idea that the human body is designed to regenerate as long as it receives the right signals. Darkness is a sign. The blueberry is a sign. The absence of blue light is a sign. The presence of good fats is a sign. When you line up these signals, you speak the language that your cells understand. You stop fighting biology and start cooperating with it. Night vision doesn't have to fade with age. It can be preserved, it can be nourished, it can be rescued. What ages badly is carelessness, not the body. I'm going to share one more story that marked me. Mr. Nelson, 85 years old, raised in the countryside, used to walking in the dark all his life. He came to the office because his daughter was desperate. He had fallen outside the house, in the yard, at night. He fractured his femur. During recovery, he became depressed. He no longer wanted to leave the room. The daughter asked me for help. I visited Mr. Nelson at home. He was in a bright room with the light on day and night because his daughter thought that way he would see better. But the constant light was depleting his visual ink. In addition, the post-surgical diet was low in fruit, high in dairy and calcium supplements. I talked to her daughter, explained about the darkness, about the thawed blueberry with walnuts, about turning off the screens. She began to leave the room in dim light at night, brought the blueberry. Mr. Nelson, skeptical of his way, started eating. 3 months later, the daughter called me. He said that his father had walked back to the fence of the land in the late afternoon, and that one night, when there was no power in the house, he was the only one who got up and went to the kitchen to get a candle without tripping over anything. He said, "I still know how to walk in the dark." The autonomy returned. The identity of a man from the countryside restored. That's what we study for. That's what we guide you towards. I want you to deeply understand what happens when you eat blueberries with nuts, at night, in the dark, away from screens. You are promoting an orchestrated regeneration. Walnuts provide omega-3, which is anti-inflammatory and helps keep eye cell membranes flexible. Blueberry provides the pigments that recharge the ink. Dark triggers repair mode. Silence reduces cortisol, the stress hormone, which, when high, inflames the retina. Everything conspires in his eyes. It's almost poetic. And the most incredible thing is that it is not expensive. A package of frozen blueberries costs less than many eye drops that promise miracles and deliver little. Bulk nuts are affordable. Darkness is free. What costs is the time that is lost without knowing it. What is expensive is the fall, the fracture, the hospitalization, the loss of independence. Prevention, my friends, is the best investment. Before I go to the final closing, I need to mention one last silent traitor: the allergy or dry eye drops that many people use without guidance, especially those that contain preservatives. Preservatives, such as benzalkonium chloride, are substances that keep eye drops sterile, but which, with prolonged use, attack the surface of the cornea and alter the tear film. A healthy tear is the first lens of the eye. If the tear is unbalanced, the light that enters the eye is already distorted. This affects the quality of night vision. Many patients get better simply by swapping the preservative-filled eye drops for preservative-free eye drops, under medical guidance, of course, and combining this with the intake of blueberries. Dry eye is a silent epidemic among the elderly, and the wrong eye drops worsen what should improve. Dona Zuleika, 73 years old, used dry eye drops 3 times a day. She said that at night her vision was blurry. When we evaluated, the eye drops had a preservative. We replaced it, associated it with the blueberry, and in a month, the night fogging reduced dramatically. Once again, the system was selling a product that, used chronically, was stealing her night vision. The betrayal of the system is not only in what is not said, it is in what is said halfway. It is in the product that solves one problem and causes another. And speaking of system, I need to touch on a delicate subject. The vitamin supplement industry often sells vision formulas that contain lutein, zeaxanthin, vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc. These formulas have their value, especially for macular degeneration. But most of them do not contain the specific pigments of blueberries in the required concentration. And when they do, they are often in the form of dry extract, which has lost part of its activity. And the worst, the consumer takes the capsule in the morning, along with breakfast, with milk, with bread, thinking that he is protected. It is not. The time is wrong. The company is wrong. The shape is wrong. And the money goes away. Fresh food, consumed intelligently, is superior to many expensive supplements. Nature does not make mistakes. We make mistakes by processing too much, by isolating too much, by ignoring the rhythm of the body. I now want to pause to breathe together. You who are listening to me, maybe you are in your room, maybe in the living room, maybe on your cell phone while waiting for dinner. Look around for a moment. Notice the light. Notice the shadows. Notice how your eyes are feeling right now at the end of the day. They are tired. They burn a little. Maybe you've spent the day in front of a screen. His eyes worked very hard. Now imagine that in a few hours, when you retire, you are going to give them a gift. It will offer the deep blue of the blueberry, the embrace of the nuts, the rest of the darkness. You won't just be eating a piece of fruit. You will be reconciling with your body, with your natural rhythm. You will be saying to yourself, I deserve to take care of myself. I deserve to see well. I deserve to walk in the dark without fear. And that's the final message I want to leave. Night vision is not a luxury. It is a right. It is a pillar of autonomy and maturity. It's what allows you to go to the bathroom at dawn without waking your spouse. It's what allows you to get a glass of water in the kitchen without turning on all the lights in the house. It's what allows you to leave the theater and walk to the car without leaning on someone's arm. It is what allows you to continue being you, the owner of your life, the master of your space. And when that starts to fail, fear comes. Insecurity comes. Dependence comes. And the blueberry, my friends, is an instrument of freedom. Small, blue, humble, but powerful. Share this video with anyone you know who is afraid of the dark, with whom he has avoided going out at night, with whom he handed over the car key. Share it as an act of love, because darkness doesn't have to be an enemy. It can once again be your resting place, your refuge, your ally. And when your eyes meet the dark and recognize the contours, the shapes, the paths, you will remember one simple thing: a fruit, a timetable, a choice. And you will smile, because you will know that age can bring wrinkles, it can bring gray hair, but you don't have to take away your ability to see life in all its lights and in all its shadows. Take care of yourself. Sleep well. And until the next video, my friends, from the heart.